In a previous video I made, I told you that martial arts was a really important part of my life. I wanted to make a video about why martial arts is so important to me and why I think it's a great thing for every person to do at one point in their lives, whether they're a young boy, a young girl, a young man, young woman. One of the reasons is just because I think today people are really, really soft. It's like that scene from Fight Club, if you've seen that movie, which is one of my favorite movies, where uh, Edward Norton's character, or Brad Pitt's character, because they're the same person, gives an assignment to everyone in Fight Club to go out and start a fight in which they must lose. So it's actually kind of comical because in this homework assignment that they're given, that hard as they try to engage other people in a fight in which they're basically going to allow the other person to physically beat them up, they cannot even they can't even goad people into getting a fight no matter how nasty they are to them, because people just want to avoid any type of confrontation. And I really do believe that there's been a certain emasculation of the male species over the last century, because I've known from just reading historically, I know like the kind of struggle immigrants in America had, and immigrants in other countries in the 1920s and the 30s and 40s and 50s, you know, how they came over to America with nothing but the clothes on their back and maybe $20 in their pocket, and they made it. I think there's so few people in the world today that or as far as in Western societies, that you can do that. You know, you can take away all their wealth and just put them in another country just with their clothes on their back and a few dollars in their pocket and have them make it. Whereas that was the standard for immigrants coming to America back then. I also know that people will not put up with what's going on in the banking world today. They will not put up with this massive cultural immorality that's part of the industry. They wouldn't put up with this type of criminal culture that's going on in banking today. And in fact, that's why the US Federal Reserve even faked their name, even though they were a private banking institution. That's why people didn't know for the better part of the century that it was a private banking institution, because they knew back then, and this is known from historic books, that they discussed naming this as the bank, as a central bank of America, but they knew that people would be so opposed because bankers have been criminals for hundreds of years, and they knew back then people understood the criminality of the banking system. They'd be so opposed to this institution that was a private bank having a monopolistic control over the entire monetary supply of the country that they named it the US Federal Reserve. But back then that was also because they understood people had guts, you know, and I think they've worked over time through, and I'll discuss this in other videos, but they work through time through, like I said, gladiator games to distract people, to dumb people down. They work through behavioral modification, Skinnerian operant conditioning, and institutional academics to really strip away people's, as far as men's masculinity and even females' individuality and their critical thinking skills. So that has all contributed to this. So just for the fact that it would toughen people up a little, I think that's a good thing. I'm not saying at all that, you know, your physical prowess is a sense of your manhood. Of course it's not, because my instructors, my masters through the years I've trained with, have actually emphasized the fact that if we use the skills that we were gaining in class to go out and start trouble when we were younger and to get into fights and hurt people, that he would kick us out of class. So that's not the point. You know, because no one that is a true martial artist that has that warrior spirit believes that that is acceptable way to conduct yourself once you have those physical skills to go out and deliberately hurt other people, or to just be basically an ass and start confrontations where you can use your skills to dominate other people. But and you can see that too, because don't get fooled by people who say they're martial artists. Like I saw Sean Hannity of Fox News saying he was a martial artist, and it's ridiculous because he obviously does not have the warrior spirit, because I've never met a high-grade martial artist that has that kind of narrow-mindedness that he has. So that's one benefit of being a martial artist, because you will be taught by a good instructor to lose your ego. That's one of the goals of martial arts is to lose your ego, because ego is responsible for a lot of bad decisions that we make in life, because it's ego causes us to hold on to false beliefs, to false narratives, because it's a strike to our egos for us to believe that something we could have believed for so long in our lives could be wrong. But once you lose sense of that ego, then you gain a whole different perspective, and you gain more knowledge, and you gain more information, because you realize that, hey, maybe I could be wrong, and maybe that this person that has these salient points they're making in this conversation, I should be listening to that because they could be right. So actually, I've also found that high-level martial artists not only have, as far as like book knowledge, that kind of information that is far superior to most other people, but I also find that they have a lot of life wisdom and life knowledge that is a lot greater than other people, because it's due to this open-mindedness. So don't mistake the fact that I'm saying that losing your ego is part of martial arts. It means you're losing your sense of self, because no, you can have a very, very strong sense of self. You can have a very, very developed sense of self-esteem if you're a martial artist, but yet have very, very little ego, because it's that humility that's so important, I think. And why do you also, it's part of the physicality of martial arts that actually grants people that humility as well, because no matter how great your skills are, there's always going to be someone better than you, in your whatever classes you train, whatever dojos you've been in and trained in, because through the course of your lifetime, you're always going to have someone that's better than you. And if you are sparring, as you should be, because I don't think you should go to any martial arts class where you're just doing college. You should be in a martial arts class where you're sparring frequently, because I've trained in classes where we sparred at least once a week, and yeah, you're going to get hurt, because there are people in my class that I saw that had broken arms, broken noses, got punched in the face during sparring and whatnot. So the thing is that not only will this toughen you physically, it will toughen you mentally, but more importantly than that, this is much more important, is that it will give you a sense of humility. And what I mean by that is that, like going back to my last point, that there's always going to be someone that can physically dominate you and mentally dominate you, because just their skills are superior. Because martial arts training is mind, body, spirit. It's the whole triumvirate of those skills, and there's going to be people that are on a higher level than you, no matter how good you are. And when you get physically dominated, and you have that sense where someone is just, basically dominating you on the mat, and you feel that you can't escape, because they're always basically able to control you physically. That is a very humbling experience, and trust me, no matter how good a martial artist you are, everyone has gone through that. That's a martial artist at some point in their training career. So to go through that gives you a sense of humility, like that a lot of people don't have, especially those people that are super privileged, right? Because a lot of these people have never even had struggle in their lives, ever, financially, because they've never been for need or for want of anything, because anything they wanted, whether it was a $100,000 car when they turned 16, their parents provided for them. And I see that in society today, even in Asia where I'm at. I see a lot of times, I have peers in their 30s and even in their 40s, and their parents are still taking care of them. They have like daddy's or mommy's credit card, and everything is paid for, which is just ridiculous. And martial arts is great because it will give you a sense of struggle, because I've never known anyone that has not gone through struggle that has a strong sense of character. We have a saying in martial arts that the sword that has gone through multiple fires is the strongest sword in battle and will hold best in battle and during stress. Whereas the sword that's never been tempered with fire is the most brittle and will break at the first sign of stress. So it's kind of like people's spirit. That's where the martial arts warrior spirit comes from. That sense of perseverance you get from being dominated and humiliated by someone in a sparring session, but yet continuing to persevere so your skills get better so you can compete and match up with that person better. It's a very important lesson in life because it's just not about the physicality. It's just not about the martial or the war aspect of martial arts. It's about transferring that perseverance to your career. If you're an entrepreneur, then you'll have more perseverance as far as not giving up so easily. I think today, again, people are soft because you see, and the state knows that. The people that are ruling the state know that. That's why in America you have 1 in 7 people on food stamps, and they're willing, absolutely willing to be on food stamps and to take out these handouts without trying to make any type of effort to get a job, because as long as the state is providing for them, they're going to take that, and rather than make it on their own and have this sense of pride to do something to make it on their own, or to overthrow the unjust systems that are in place, the unjust banking system, the criminal banking system. People back, I am 100% convinced that people back in the 1900s would not stand for this madness that's going on today. Would have the pride to reject these food stamps and say, hey, if the system's not allowing me, because the problem is a lot of times there's no jobs out there or no good jobs, then people would still not take these handouts, but say, hey, we're going to overthrow the people that have provided such a crappy system that the system produces no jobs, and we're going to put in our own system. And you wouldn't have the bankers be able to say, hey, we already created $29 trillion out of thin air to recapitalize the banks after the 2008 crisis. What's another trillion? What's another trillion here and there? You just create it out of thin air, and we'll give it to the people to keep them sedated. I really do believe that today people have a fear of any kind of struggle. I remember when I was a kid, like if you were bullied, you took care of it. You took care of it as a boy. If you were bullied, I remember I think it was like 5th or 6th grade, that there was a kid that would bully me. One time I just knocked him out of his chair and knocked him on his ass on the floor, and he stopped bullying me. He never bullied me again that day. That's how you took care of it. But today, everyone, there's like Sheryl Sandberg, who's a CEO of Facebook, that says, hey, we shouldn't use the word boss. I want to strike the word bossy out of the English language, because if little boys assert themselves, we call them leaders, but if little girls assert themselves, then we call them bossy. Well, that's a problem of perception. It's ridiculous to think that you can change behavior just by striking a word from language. This is what I'm saying. Everyone's looking for that shortcut. No one wants to put in the effort and the time to really fix the problems, to fix the root of the problem. That's my message for today. And if you're a martial artist, please do comment below. Tell me what you have learned. What is the greatest lesson martial arts has taught you? Okay, thanks a lot for watching, and as always, remain intensely curious. So long.